All right. Hi, and welcome to Noble Productions podcast. I'm your host, Chris Noble, and today I'm extremely excited to have the founder of Share Your Story, a fantastic organization and business that I'm also fortunate to be working with. And I wanted to bring on Nathaniel Lingard, the founder of Share Your Story, because he's got a background in film, but he's also an entrepreneur, and he's been able to merge these two areas together very beautifully in not just his business with Share Your Story, but also in other endeavors, which we will get into later in the podcast. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you Nathaniel Lingard. Nathaniel, how you doing, bud?
I'm good, brother. How are you, man?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, man, my pleasure. My pleasure. So for the audience watching, let's just go a little bit on the background. So I guess what got you into film and video in the first place, and then what is Share Your Story? What is your business?
Film and video. Well, it's hard to say when you find a passion, it just kind of comes to you. So picked up a camera when I was 13, fell in love with it. Didn't ask any questions why. I just knew it was super fun and super fulfilling. And there was something about encapsulating whatever you were recording and having that on playback whenever you wanted years down the road. So that was really early on in my teenager years. And as life went on, I started realizing with Share Your Story that, well, take a story, take film, bring them together, and let's build a business.
I love it. And I guess talk to us about this incredible opportunity that video now offers, where, you're creating a legacy for people, and, you're really using video as a time capsule. Let's explain to our audience what do you mean by that? How do you do that?
Yeah, so to backtrack a little bit, when I was in high school, we were still using the old VHS recorders on your shoulder. And so, of course, with technology, everyone has an iPhone and an Android, and it's super cheap to film, and it's high quality. But before, back in the day, you really had to think about what you were filming. So I'm really happy I was part of that, because a lot of planning and pre-planning into your productions. But so that was very great priming for the years to come. And so now moving in, technology is much cheaper. We're able to film a lot easier. And then now the story, someone's story is, everybody needs to hear about your story. Everyone has a story. And now that we have social media, it's not every, you have famous people on Instagram, famous people on the web, famous people on TV, but there are 7 billion human beings on this planet, and everyone has a story to tell. And now we have the ability with our technology to encapsulate that and get those stories online.
So when you're working with your clientele and you have these, whether it's, I know you work with funeral homes, old age homes, wills and estates lawyers are your main clients. But of course, at the end of the day, it's really about the families and the people that you're actually recording and capturing their stories. What do you find is the feedback when someone sees, let's say their grandmother talking about how, when they grew up and maybe going through World War II or whatever their story was? How do you find the reaction is from the families when they see these videos?
It's an absolutely beautiful thing, because right now there's so much distraction. And the old dinner table family talks with no TV in the living room is unfortunately not the case so much anymore. So when people actually slow down, sit down, get back to being a family unit, and they actually watch this beautiful story of someone that's, maybe passed away or still alive, it's, wow, I didn't know that about you. And you're able just to relax and get to know the person that's on the TV.
And I've heard this because obviously we've worked together and I've helped you with some of these videos. Talk about the therapeutic aspect. I know a lot of my clients and a lot of entrepreneurs and folks out there trying to make their own videos are a little terrified in getting in front of the camera. But let's talk about the therapeutic side of getting in front of the camera and just telling your story, being vulnerable, and just talking to another human being. What's the therapeutic element of that?
Well, unfortunately, a lot of people feel like they don't have the right to talk about their life because, for one reason or another, they don't it's all about fame right now. Like, I'm not famous enough. Like, who wants to hear what I have to say? And people are a little hesitant sometimes. And then you get them on camera and they can't stop talking. It's great. We had a client once. We sat down with her. And she said, I haven't thought about some of these things in over 35 years. And she was talking about her father and telling, the dear stories of her and her father, who now is transitioned over, who's not with us anymore. But it's these stories that she was talking about, and you could see how fulfilling it was for her to relive these moments with her dad. Because one, when was the last time she even thought about her father? And two, minus the thought, when was the last time she even talked about her father to anybody? And it was so therapeutic. And I think she walked away from that feeling like she had a new perspective on her childhood. It was a really beautiful thing. And she was crying, and she was really letting, I wouldn't say she was letting things go, but she was reliving beautiful moments that she hadn't thought about in a long time. And that was really special for her.
I also feel, sometimes, again, people can get a little freaked out when you have, sometimes if you're filming on your own, it's a little nerve wracking, but at least you're on your own. And then when you've got a film crew around you, it can get a little more intimidating, right? You got lights, you got mics, you got all this stuff, right? And although it can be intimidating, I know what client you're talking about there and what video, because her son mentioned afterwards that she felt like a movie star. Maybe talk a little bit about, yeah, it can be intimidating, but there's a fun side to having all that light and glamour and stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean, you watch behind the scenes, or you might catch a 30-second on TV about how they made this film, and a lot of these are grade A, productions with big budgets, and the film world is a very niche market, you could say. And when you bring that to somebody, and we're more of a skeleton crew, we want to keep it small and concise and intimate. We're focusing on the client. It's the client's day, and they feel super, super special. And it might take them 2, 3, 4 minutes to get over that. Maybe they're a little nervous, but once they get into it, and once you start to connect, it's just, I said it before. It's a beautiful thing to see someone feel special.
Absolutely. And we can get back into some of the cool and really amazing elements of your business, share your story. But I would love to, impart our audience with some of your wisdom on video production. Obviously, you're an expert in your field, but you're also an entrepreneur, and you understand the value of creating your own content. And so for a lot of the folks out there watching this podcast, I know they're either thinking about creating content or are starting to create content, or have been doing it for a while, but are always looking to learn more and grasp on some new skills and stuff like that. So what would you say, from your perspective with creating video, whether it's for your business, whether it's for your clients, what do you think are some of the key factors? Maybe let's start with how do you start making video? Now maybe we're not talking big productions. Let's think about people trying to just create their own little bits of YouTube content. What's some advice you can give them for just getting the ball rolling, just getting out there? How business-minded people, entrepreneurs are usually perfectionists, right? Yeah. Sometimes that can be a bit of a detriment to getting things going. So what would you say to those people?
Well, we all have cell phones. There's more cell phones than people on this planet. And, you can switch your screen to see yourself. You can change that view. So I would say to people is set your phone up and record yourself, because people have a big problem with listening to themselves and seeing themselves. And that's a big showstopper for a lot of people. So set up your camera, start recording yourself, record anything. Record yourself talking to the camera, record yourself gardening, record yourself, maybe doing some home renovations, and watch that and start being okay with watching yourself on a camera, and then upload it, and then just do it. Just do it again, then do it again after that, and keep on doing it. And then you do it again, and then do it again after that. Yeah, you just got to keep doing it. Nike nailed it in the 80s. Just do it. Go for it. Just see yourself. Be comfortable with it.
I think you're absolutely right. It's a good point, because I would say no matter what, and I think most YouTubers and filmmakers in general, that's been doing it long enough will tell you the same thing. Like, your worst material is always going to be the stuff you start with. So you may as well start now and just get that out of the way, push through. And I think the real key is to push through. So once you start, just keep doing it, because it's only going to get better from there. And I think that's the thing that people really need to understand is you're only going to get better the more you do it. And I think everyone knows this inherently, but to put it into practice is a whole other can of worms, right? And so, what I also say to my clients and to anyone out there wanting to create content is just do it, take that Nike slogan and run with it, and just do it. And it might be terrible when you start, but that's okay. You don't even have to post that stuff, or you can still post that stuff. And as the internet and content goes, I mean, you're creating so much that those first things are just going to be pushed down anyway. Most people won't see it. And, you know, again, you have that choice of putting it out there or not putting it out there. When it comes to being yourself on camera, you're very good on camera. Obviously, you've been doing this a long time. You've done a lot of different types of projects where you're communicating and just being yourself in front of the camera. What would you say to, again, these newer content creators or current content creators about being natural in front of the camera? What would be your advice to them?
The moment you feel that you're not being yourself, and you know, the gut is a really powerful thing, and your gut will start talking to you. If you feel that you're taking too many lines, too many quotes, it's not flowing properly, well, the beautiful thing is now you don't have to stop the VHS tape, load a new one in, redigitize. You just press stop and press record again, and find that flow. Talk slow. You know, I can say that sometimes I talk a little fast, I'm high energy, but talk a little slow, talk slower, and you'll know when you start to find your own vibe. I heard a really good story of a pastor who took over a church from his father, and for the first month he was trying to be his father. And people feel that. People know that it doesn't ring true. But you be yourself because you're bringing your own style and your own performance, and people want to see that. And people will know when you start getting into that. You start getting into your own little vibe there.
I love that. You know, it's embracing your own personality and not trying to be somebody else. Like, everyone's got their favorite YouTubers or their favorite content creators or actors and actresses who they emulate. And the natural thing is to try to be like them, right? Is to try to have that. Now, you can use them as inspiration and as a reference, but ultimately, and I think every good entrepreneur knows that you will stand out more by just being authentic and being yourself and having your brand be what it is, not trying to be anything else. So keep that same perspective and mentality when it comes to creating content. You know, just be yourself, and let that quirkiness, let that weirdness, let that whatever your energy is come out, because that's going to ultimately sell and resonate more. And ultimately too, it's going to attract the right audience for whatever it is you're trying to sell, create, attract, whatever it is. When you are your authentic self, that's what you end up bringing back, right? In the form of an audience. Would you agree with that?
I totally agree. And really, don't be so hard on yourself. It's a tough thing. It's a tough thing to do. You know, I remember filming myself for the first time, like, it's bad. And then you put the camera down, you don't pick it up for a couple of weeks. And it's like, well, why? Try it again. Forgive yourself and move on and do it again and keep on doing it. And it's something that a lot of people struggle with, and it's not bad. It's just something you should work towards. And we have the ability right now, again, with technology being so cheap, everyone has a cell phone. Just press that record button again and find your flow and find your rhythm and find your voice. Now,
coming back and to share your story for a bit, you know, what I love about your company and kind of what your company stands for is it's really, again, it's capturing the human story, the power of storytelling. You know, we've been communicating and telling stories for as long as humans have been around, and it's the best way to keep information, to convey information, and to, you know, hold history and information for a long period of time. What would you say are the key components to telling a story? You know, whether it's a business, whether it's somebody's story that you've just captured, you know, someone's life story. What do you think are the important things that come through, you know, when you're telling a story? Is it all about the detail and the logistics, or is it more about the essence and the, you know, like the real core emotional side of things? Like, what do you find are the key components to a good story?
Well, a good story needs structure. That's the first thing. When you watch any type of movie, there's a structure to it, and there's, you know, these are set rules in the industry. When you're telling a story, you know, there's it comes up and down. So when you're telling a story, you want to stick to a structure and stick to a timeline. Now, you can break the rules a little bit, but a timeline's usually good. So when I'm sitting down with a client, I usually like to start with, I get the heritage out of the way in the beginning. Where were you born? Tell me about your mom and dad. Let's go back as far as you possibly can remember. And then I'll start to go into some key stories in their childhood. and then we talk about their adult life. And then we go into some principles and morals they've lived their life around. And what the best thing about that is that one question can lead into 4 or 5 different answers, and they can touch on a lot of different things. So let the client talk. Let the client talk, and don't get too detailed. Let them be themselves, because they have to also find their flow. A lot of clients, again, are a little nervous, but once they start going, they get it, and they find it. And then near the ending, the best thing that I always love to do, because we use video to transcend time literally, I love the fact that I know that, your great grandchildren can watch their great great grandmother. And so we bridge those generations. And so I always ask at the end, imagine it's 70 years from now, what would you like to say? Because that question is an encapsulation of the times we live in, right? And times are always changing. And so that's a good flow, I find, and that's a good timeline I like to abide by.
Yeah, and I think that works really great for for yourself, for your types of videos, for share your story. And I think though that that's also a great general way to approach storytelling. So whether these are again, content creators, entrepreneurs, whoever that want to create video content for themselves, having a structure is really great. It doesn't have to be super strict, but it's great to have a beginning, a middle, and an end, to have that, like that arc, like you're saying, right? What's the intro? What's maybe, argument number 1, number 2, number 3, and then the conclusion, which is obviously an essay format, but that's, again, a good format to stick by. And then when you have, those rules, and I remember from improv classes that the more structure you do have, the more creativity and freedom that you have to work within that structure. If you have no structure whatsoever, in a way, you're all over the place, and it's harder to be creative. It's actually easier to be creative when you have restrictions, And so having that structure and that arc and that flow, and applied to each and every one of your videos, it comes across more professional. It helps dictate and articulate the information in a better and more concise, simplistic way. And then ultimately, it's just a better story, right?
Yeah. And people remember, there's an old saying, people remember how you made them feel. So we're emotional beings. So when someone starts talking about something emotional, let it go, let it happen, let it flow, let them talk about that, because you're going to really get some beautiful core stories of a person's life when they actually start getting deep and vulnerable.
I think that's a great point to actually bring up too. Then there's the structure, there's the organizational elements of a story that are important. But then, what the emotion, right? Like the human element of a story is so important. And even if it's business, we know that business these days is becoming more and more humane, emotional based, and certainly becoming more authentic to the people that are in that business. So the more open you are, the more yourself you are representing your business, the better it comes across, because people actually resonate with you being a human. And maybe you slip up, you make a couple of mistakes. Who cares? Leave it in there. It's kind of, blah, 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 I fumbled my words, and I'm going to laugh at it and then just carry on. And look at me, I made a mistake. I'm human too. There's nothing wrong with having that, in at least most certain types of videos, so maybe what I think you were touching on it, but maybe just to go a little bit deeper, what could you say to people about getting maybe a little bit more vulnerable in front of the camera and allowing themselves to really express themselves more through these videos?
Yeah, when we leave our houses, we whether we like it or not, we're putting on a show. We're putting on a mask, right? And we're acting a certain way and looking a certain way. And then you get back home and you strip off your clothes and you're yourself again. So don't strip off your clothes when you go outside, but bring a little bit of an element to that, to business. Be yourself, because you've heard it before when you talk to someone in business. Oh, I'll refer you to my buddy I've known for 25 years. Well, why? Because we're good friends. Because we went past the paper and the invoices and the pens, and we got to know each other a little bit more, and we were a little vulnerable. And you see backyard parties with maybe 10 contractors in the backyard, or whatever it may be, 10 people from the office lining up there, because we're connected, and we cannot hold back on human connection. We want to connect, and we want to make friends, and we want to be a community.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so, if you can have that humanity, that human element to your videos, I think that always works, and helps out a lot better, for the response from the audience, and just to have people resonate with that. Another one of the questions I wanted to go into. So, you are the founder of Share Your Story. You also have other side projects, and one of them that's really interesting is a YouTube channel called World Ambience, or 24 World Ambience. So, for the audience watching, I love this because it's essentially what Nathan's done here is he's capturing nature on video and through high quality audio, high quality video, and documenting it. It's simply the ambience, the sounds, the visuals, and it's so incredibly soothing and amazing. But what I wanted to touch on was, what was the motivation to start that channel, and what made you actually get the ball rolling and doing it? Because I think that's still one of the hardest things for people, is just to start something. So how did you get going on that?
I needed some quiet time. I needed some time. I like to call it, when I sit down and I sit in silence, I always like to say I'm putting the files back in the folder. And when I have silence, I can do that. So, you visual, like we work on visualization. So when you sit down, I'm able to, okay, I got to do this, maybe do that. I'm going to focus on this and my intention on that. And I'm able to really organize those things. And being in the city, it's a little overwhelming sometimes. Wherever you go, there's a car honk, there's a truck passing by, there's a lot of people, and it's never a bad thing to be social. It's never a bad thing to be around, what's happening, quote unquote. But it's also good to get back to realize that, yeah, we're living on planet Earth. It's a beautiful, as Carl Sagan said, it's a beautiful blue pale dot, and we should respect it. And there's a lot that it has to offer. And nature indirectly will teach you so many things that you never thought you could learn. And I wanted to bring that to people's living rooms. Some people, they just won't get out there. They just won't go in that, and that's fine. But if you don't want to get out there, I'll bring it to you, right? And if you do want to get out there, well, go visit some of the beautiful trails and provincial parks. And there's so much nature out there to go and see. And it's serene. And being by yourself, there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, and I love what you're doing there with and with both of your projects. You got 24 World Ambience, and then you have of course Share Your Story, which is your main passion. And both of those companies, what they have in common is that they're using video to capture the beauty of life and transmit that to the human experience, right? So once again, using video as a fantastic documentation tool to make people's lives a little bit better, to touch people in a positive way, to connect people. It's just so amazing to be able to do that with a medium, like video. And it really is unlike any other medium at this particular point in time that we have access to. Before we wrap things up here, I guess, what I would love to get from you is maybe some final thoughts on why should people, especially entrepreneurs, businesses, content creators currently or want to be content creators, why should they take that important first step and get vulnerable and probably do something that's really difficult and challenging for them and just start to create videos? Like, why ultimately, what's the benefit?
The benefit is, no matter what you want to pursue, it's going to give you fulfillment. And it's great when you're young. And as you get older, you realize, we've maybe to get a little philosophical here, just talk a little bit about life, but at least I've been taught, and the system I think that I've been raised in is that you're always working to get somewhere, and you get there and there's something else to do, and there's something else to do after that, and then you got to get to that grade and get to that and you can do this and do that, and then you sit back, you're like, I forgot to even take in the small accomplishment here that I've been working so hard. So when you start to realize that, you want to slow down a bit and really do what's important to you, because you're here for a blink of an eye, you might say, and then you're gone. You'll look back hopefully on your life and be like, yep, it was fulfilling. It was fulfilling, and it made me feel good. And you're not always going to be happy. Like, you're not going to be happy 100% of your life, but when you're fulfilled and that you've done something meaningful, I think you can transition with a smile on your face and know that you lived life to the best of your ability. And you inherently know what's important to you, and you inherently know what feels good. And it's good to challenge yourself, because if you don't step out of your comfort zone, we've heard it a million times, you're not going to change. you're not going to change. So, and change is good and change is inevitable. Life is change. So do what feels good in your gut, because it's gonna bring meaning to your life.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Yeah. So, before we end this off, let's talk. Let's finish off with Share Your Story here. And why don't you tell the audience, what does Share Your Story offer right now to the clients, to the people that you work with, and where can people, check you out and find out more about you?
Yeah, so the website is shareyourstorytoday.com, and right now we're offering what we call the time capsule package. The time capsule package is essentially what it stands for, and what it means is that we're going to interview you, and we're going to talk about your life, and we're going to ask some in-depth questions that you might have never gotten asked before. So it's going to get you thinking, get the ball rolling, and we're going to encapsulate that into a video, and we're going to give it to your family, and you can share it with whoever you want, and it's going to last 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, and possibly 100 years. And you're going to be burned into a video that your family can see decades from now, right? So like I said in the beginning, we're here to bridge generations. I want my great-grandchildren to see their great-grandmother. Unfortunately, with the lifespans that we have, it's just not possible, but now it is possible. So this time capsule, we've done it with, books and photos and pictures and special memorabilia, but let's do it with our stories.
I love it. I love it. And where can people check you out on social media?
Yeah, Share Your Story. Share Your Story Today, dog. Yeah.
Share Your Story Today is the handle on Instagram?
Yeah.
Amazing. Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, I assume?
Yeah.
Amazing. Awesome. All right. Well, for everyone watching, all of the information that we just talked about will be in the description below. So check out those links to Share Your Story's website. I'll put Nathaniel's contact information. Of course, you can reach out to him and ask more questions about, what Share Your Story is all about and all the amazing packages and offerings you can get with them. I highly recommend it. I am also a client of Share Your Story. I have gone through the process, and it is so much fun, so interesting. You will learn things about your family you never, ever thought you would be hearing or learning about. And it's a really fulfilling, amazing, and incredible experience, an important one, very therapeutic. And it's something that also, grows in value each and every day. The older that video gets, the more valuable. Just like a photo from your childhood, you look back on it now, 30, 40, 50 years later, it hits you hard. And these videos are no exception. To hear, your loved one's voice, to see your loved one smiling, laughing. I mean, you just can't really put a price tag on how valuable that is. So I'm really honored to have Nathaniel here on the show today. And like I said, all the information will be below in this video, and even the little side projects we discussed, like 24 World Ambience as well. I will be putting links to that. So I just wanted to say thanks again, Nathan, for coming on the show. I really appreciate having you today. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, buddy. Really appreciate it, man.
Fantastic. All right, everyone. Well, thanks so much for watching the Noble Productions podcast. Of course, we're always here to help you out with your video production of any kind. If you have any questions, of course, feel free to reach out to me, info@nobleproductions.ca, or visit our website at nobleproductions.ca. Of course, like I said, all that information will be below. So thanks again, and we'll catch you next time. Take care.
Bye, guys.